So we have our sculpted clay, and I'm just going to pinch off a piece of clay, and then another, so 2 equal sized pieces. I want to make a slightly bigger rabbit, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, I'm just going to check. You can actually weigh these if you want to make it really precise. I'm just going to do it by eye. So I reckon that those are pretty equally sized. And this consistency of this clay is so beautiful. It's so smooth, very soft, really easy to work with. And I would say of the air dry clays that I've tried, it's the one that resembles most the white ceramic clay that I use. So I really like it for that. So we're just going to roll these 2. You can use your palm of your hand, however you want to do this, to get them into a reasonably good smooth ball shape. And then we're going to do what's called a pinch pot. So this is the basis of so many different designs, honestly, and it's super simple. So what I do, I've got long nails, so I tend to just use my knuckle, but basically you can use your thumb or your finger or your knuckle to just make a hollow in the center of the ball. And then you're going to use your fingers almost like a duck quacking. So your thumb's going inside and then your fingers are on the outside, and you're just rotating and bringing up the walls of the clay like so. You don't want to go too thin, so ideally you're going to keep it about no thinner than an inch. So you want a decent density of thickness of the clay. And you can see I've got these fingerprints. This has made the clay very textured. So what we will be doing is we'll be smoothing that out. So we want to just pop the clay onto the board just to give it that flatness there. And again, just going to squeeze out the clay to form this sort of half dome shape. And that's a pretty good size to me. So again, I'm just going to pop it down and create a flat surface there. So that's one half. Place that face down. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the second one and just start creating this little bowl shape. So you can make a cup or a bowl, anything you like from this kind of shape. I'm just checking that we've got the same width on both of those. They don't have to be absolutely 100% precise, but as long as you're getting the general same width for both of them, because these pieces are going to be stuck together, glued together to form a sphere. So it's going to be like a hollow object. I made that one slightly different. This is what happens. You can never get it absolutely perfect, but that's fine. And they are roughly the same size, those. That one feels like the walls are slightly thicker, so I'm just going to tease those out again. Just checking that we've got the same size because we want them to match together really nicely. Okay, so flattening my edges down again. And now we're going to join these 2 hollows together. Don't worry if you know, this will happen. You will get little scuff marks. You will, whack the clay with your nail. It's perfectly fine. This is what happens. So we're going to take one of the sides of the dome, and this is a scoring tool. So it's basically got these little wire prongs on it. Let's do that so you can see that. So multiple wire prongs, which makes our job easier. And this is called scoring. So you're going to go all the way around the outside of one half of the dome, doing like a cross hatching effect. So you're going in one direction and then another. So you can go all the way around in one direction and then go across that. Let's do that. And what this does is it allows the clay to bond to another piece because it's creating a bit of purchase. It's creating a bit of tooth on the clay. So when two shiny smooth surfaces go together, they don't always stick. But when they've got little peaks and troughs that they can adhere to one another, it just makes it more secure. So we're going to go all the way around there. The great thing about this air drying clay is it takes a while to dry, so you've got lots of working time. You don't need to worry. And then we need a little paintbrush. So let me grab this paintbrush here and I'm going to dip it into our slip, which has gone all nice and gooey now. I'm going to take one side of my domes and just start to apply the slip to it. So we don't need to worry about what's going on inside here because we're never going to see that again once these two domes get placed together. Once they get married, that's it. Nobody sees them, they're all part of a whole. So get some more of that slip. Oh, it's got a really big chunk of it there. And just enjoy the process of taking your time, painting on. It's a little bit too big, so giving it a bit more time to sink in, the water on there, but it acts like a glue and it's very, very effective. And then we're going to pop our two halves together of our domes. And what you're going to do is just using your thumb, just very lightly, you don't want to squish the domes because they're hollow. You're just going to, with your thumb, just tease them together. Create that bond there around the outside. It's like a little mouth. We're closing it up. You could, if you wanted, use the clay tool as well, which is a nice way to use that. I tend to use both my fingers and the clay tool. You'd be surprised how many things around the house that you can actually use for clay, for working with clay. It's a breadboard which has now been commandeered to my clay work. You can get breadboards or sets of different sizes of breadboards really cheaply in homeware stores. Okay, so that's that done. Now it's looking very crumply and very creased. We can just smooth it with our fingers if we wish. I'm going to set that down for a second, and we're going to make what's known as a rope of clay. So I'm going to pinch some clay off, just about the size of the phalange of my finger, and I'm going to roll a snake or a rope with this clay. Now I can do it on the board as well. You might find that easier to do. You want to get it fairly equal in thickness all the way around. So we don't want it to be really massive, massively thick, this rope. But what we're doing with this rope is we're sealing that gap between the two halves of the clay. And then I'm just going to dip my fingers in this bowl of water and just lubricate the rope of clay. Just make sure that it's nice and wet. You don't need to add any slip to this because it's still very sticky, but I'm just going to draw a line of water around that place where we join the two halves, and then just going to pop that rope of clay around our ball till it meets at the other end, and then just going to use your fingers or the clay tool to match that into the seam. Now this may seem very messy. It is. That's the wonderful thing about clay. Be prepared to get messy. Be prepared for everything to go through a state of messiness and ugliness. If you've got excess clay, don't worry. you can just scrape it off and pop it into your pot for slip, and just go around and match that seam in really nicely there, all the way along. Finding this, I can do this a lot quicker with the clay tool than I can with my fingers, I'm discovering. Get rid of the excess there, and we're nearly round to the other side. And then there we go. We have joined the two halves together. Just got a little bit of one of the hairs from the paintbrush in there. If you spot anything like that, because we're not firing this clay, it's going to air dry. If you spot anything like that, then remove it, because you will see it when the clay is dry. So I'm going to go around with my finger, just smoothing that edge and making sure that it is all adhered together. Now the next stage is the fun part, and that is to make this ball as smooth as we possibly can. Now you can use your fingers to do it, which is what I'm doing here. It's creating a lovely smoothness. Can you see it's looking more ball-like, and you can see where bits of clay are overlapping a little bit, and that's fine. Just bring those together. The other thing that you can do is you can roll it either in your hands or on the table, and you can use it's either a steel kidney or a rubber kidney to smooth the clay. So this is quite a big one. I have a smaller one. You see where that one is? So I've got lots of different kidney shapes. So the kidneys are a really useful tool for smoothing clay out. They're invaluable in all kinds of different ways in clay work. So we can do that with it. We can also pat the clay. So a really good tool to have would be like a wooden spoon, or this comes with a clay making kit, and it's got this flat edge, and if you just pat the ball, can you see it's flattening the clay out really beautifully, and it's creating a smoother texture. And this stage, I would say, take your time, really take your time to create the smoothest, most perfect, seamless looking ball of clay, because it really is important, because the more work that you do at this stage, you can see just how much progress we're making with that. It's becoming rounder, it's becoming more perfect. The more time we spend at this stage, the more beautiful the piece will be. Less amateur, more professional looking. The more that people will be like, wow, you made that. It looks like a proper porcelain ornament. It's like it came from a mould. And it's the finishing that really makes it look great. Now, I've got a little bit more work to do on these bits here. So I could, just going to wipe this down, use my tool just to bring that together. You can see as the clay dries a little, it's a lot less sticky, and we've still got so much working time with this, making a really lovely effect, getting rid of any little holes and creases. You can also just dip your finger in some water and then just rub it over the surface. Don't get it too wet, you don't want to saturate it, but it's just smoothing it out, making it a lot neater and a lovely circumference. So we've got our ball. I'm going to carry on working on that, and then I will come back when I'm finished.